Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
This one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Is it shaping up to be an OB terrible weekend? Because I know that you did not want Notre Dame to win last night.
No, I didn't want Notre Dame to win.
And if Texas wins, that means one of the two teams that you don't want to win will win.
That's true.
Ohio State, baby. Huge Buckeye fan. I love Ross Bjork. Huge Buckeye fan.
I think Ohio State's the best team in the country, but you got to be the best team tonight, right?
Yeah.
I think Penn State lost that game probably more than Notre Dame won it.
I'm familiar with that kind of game.
Yeah. But no, you know what? If a certain basketball team wins tomorrow,
so we have a glorious weekend regardless of what happens.
That'll mean more to me than anything that happens in football.
100%. So Riley Leonard, stop me if you've heard this before, gets hurt and leaves the game.
Mm-hmm.
It comes back and plays really well.
Yeah.
We've heard about that before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
He's not, I don't think he's their star player. He's a really good player, really heady player. They made some plays when they had to at the end of that game.
I think what Notre Dame does with Riley Leonard is they realize what his strengths are and his weaknesses are, and they play to his strengths.
What a concept.
What a concept of, hey, I got a quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to run 80 yards, but he's a big, powerful guy. And in a short yardage situation, I can call plays for him to run.
Yep.
And I don't know, I bet you if they ran him on, I bet you if they ran him 10 times on 3rd and 3, he got 9 of them.
Yeah.
Because they know what he can do well, and they let him do it.
I'm going to say this. I don't think Notre Dame matches up well their strength against the Texas defense.
I don't know what their strengths are offensively.
I mean, they'll just get those tough yards when they need them. That's what I think about them.
I guess it is. Yeah, if you put them in a 3rd and long, I think they said that last night on the telecast, that they're among the worst in the country converting on 3rd and a certain amount of yardage because Riley's not going to run away from you. But if it's 3rd and manageable, he's an adequate passer.
So Penn State scored 10 of their points off of Riley Leonard turnovers. So he had that early one. He had one, is it early in the 3rd, maybe 4th?
There was one where he was trying to get the ball to a guy. I think this was early in the 4th, I think. And he just couldn't quite get it high enough. The 6'5" guy, linebacker up there, was able to make the interception at the 39, and they were able to go down there and score.
If we were going to do the turning point for this game, which we're not, but I thought somewhat of a turning point to me was what happened when he got hurt.
Yeah.
Because Steve Angeli doesn't do much but gets some 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come back and score right to start the second half. Now you're tied.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when your quarterback went down and you can think, chaos is going to happen. So Angeli goes in there, gets at least 3 points for them. They score. They come back and score. And then they come back and score again. I do know that Penn State obviously tied up the game immediately. But I thought, okay, to me, they're cooking. And then a guy that we know, Jaden Greathouse, what a freaking, and I know because he played at Westlake.
Yeah.
What a game.
Yeah, and he's a good receiver. Sure makes it a lot easier when the guy guarding you falls down.
Yeah.
And like, what? I'll tell you, to me, there were 2 turning points. And one's going to what you're speaking of, but I'll even take it a step further. Notre Dame had just completed a pass, but the guy fumbled.
Oh, yeah.
And Abdul Carter was there to recover it, but he kind of overran it just a little bit, and he's trying to reach back and pull it in. He was the first guy to get his hand on the ball. But I can't remember who it was, but the Notre Dame guy got on, his offensive lineman got on it and had the leverage to pull it away. So it's 10-0 at that point. If Carter recovers the fumble, I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State, because they had just moved the ball right down the field. If they had gone down and gotten a field goal, it could have been 13-0. And then the obvious one was the Aller
interception,
brain fart, where he
rolls left, throws right. Like, you can't.
And you know what? All he had to do, he was out of the pocket, just throw the ball. It's first down, I think. Just throw the ball away, and you still have 33 seconds at a timeout to try to pick up 30 yards to
get
try
a
to field goal.
Yeah.
But some quarterbacks, some guys rise in pressure situations, and some guys will.
Let me ask you about Drew Aller, because Luke brought it up before the show. There are social media reports, who knows if it's real, that he was on a yacht the day before the game having a good old time. I don't really have a problem with it. It looks bad if you lose.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? But I don't expect him to be. It's not a good look. How about that? I wouldn't want it from my player and my team. That's not why they lost the game.
No. If I was especially a quarterback, I think I would avoid anything like that. It goes back to the Tony Romo thing. Because, the thing that when he went to Cancun, the thing that nobody remembers or ever talks about is Jason Witten was there too.
Yeah.
But he's not the quarterback. And yes, it's like one of those things. I mean, what was he doing on the yacht though? Was it, hey, let's go? Were there other players? Did they take him out? And
was it just a nice,
was
relaxing
it a lunch?
I've been on a yacht, not a yacht. I've been on a nice boat ride before where you're just looking and having a nice tea.
So yeah, that's probably way overblown. The bottom line is when he's rolling out in the fourth quarter with less than a minute to go, I think by then you've played almost an hour of football. The whole yacht thing is no longer an issue. Now it's what are you going to do in this moment?
Did the yacht affect them when they were up 10-0?
Yeah, right. Maybe because he did. He threw a pass that was definitely catchable and should have been a touchdown pass on was it their first drive? Maybe their second drive. Definitely, and the guy dropped it, but it could have been a better pass. He put it at the guy's knees.
He also had that interception that ended up being pass interference that he threw into double coverage.
Two of those.
Yeah.
Two of them. Look, here's the about Drew Aller. I've watched him play a few times, and I never understood the hype. He put some yards, especially against bad teams, but you keep reading, Drew Aller's this, Drew Aller's that, and I got to tell you, every time I've seen him, I've been really underwhelmed.
I have as well. Here's something for you, and I like this guy, so I don't like bringing it up to be mean. It's a fact. James Franklin, 1-15 against top 5 opponents during his time at Penn State. That's not good, buddy.
No.
If you're a Final Four team in college football in today's world, you're not going to keep your job with that record against top 5 teams because that's who you're going to be playing to win a championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's not going to get fired. I'm not saying that.
No, Kate and I, we were talking about this earlier, and how good a coach is James Franklin. I'm like, look, from where I'm sitting, he's going in 10 games every year, and they're playing in the playoffs.
Pretty good coach.
Looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's another one for you. Penn State was just 3 of 11 on third downs.
And again, a lot of that comes back to Aller.
Mm-hmm.
He had to play early in the game where they ran a wheel route, I think it was from the 10, and the guy he was passing to looked to me, I'm probably exaggerating, looked to me, he was 5 yards past the nearest DB.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 3, but it looked like 5. Anyway, it's a 90-yard touchdown, and he misses him by
yes, he does
badly. That's again. One time they went for it on 3rd and 2 late. Maybe it was before Notre Dame scored the touchdown that tied it. And it's not on Drew Aller. I just thought the play call was very passive. Maybe Drew ran it on that play.
Hey, let's do 3 things we want to see this weekend. You can pick from any walk of life, OB. What are 3 things you want to see?
I want to see Wade Taylor back in the lineup. I don't know if we'll see that, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I'd love to see, I think we all would, Zurich Phelps have a similar performance.
I'd love to see that.
Back that, let's double down.
Yeah.
And, I want to see A&M beat Alabama. See, none of mine have anything to do with tonight's game because that other team over there is secondary to me. It doesn't. My sports interests and happiness does not involve them. I'm about A&M.
Well, I disagree.
Okay.
Because it doesn't affect my happiness, but it can make me happier.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Like, when they lose at this level, I feel good. Because I just don't want the scoreboard. I know they've got scoreboard beating us on the field. I don't want them to have a championship year one of the SEC. I just don't. That's not a narrative I want to see.
I want to see Ohio State win.
I want to see it.
So my top three are all A&M related.
Well, my top three are, I'm going to do one A&M thing, one NFL thing,
all right.
one college football playoff thing.
As is your right.
All right. I want to see Ohio State beat Penn State. Texas. Okay? I want to see it.
All right.
And I want it to not be close.
Okay.
I want it to be similar to what we've seen from Ohio State the last couple of games.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see.
It might happen.
This is it's not about Texas. It's really because of Ross Bjork. That's why.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe Ross was very kind to me. I'm rooting for you, Ross.
But I still think it's about Texas.
Okay, maybe a little. That's one. I want a Payne game.
Okay.
Are you familiar with a gentleman named Pharrell Payne?
Pharrell Paint?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Pharrell Paint.
Does he make you happy?
He does. He does. When he plays well and is productive inside, of course he does.
I know that your favorite Pharrell is Pharrell Williams, but I'm a big Pharrell Payne guy.
I don't even know who's Pharrell Williams.
Because I'm happy?
When
we come back on TexAgs, I hope we hear that song. I hope we hear it. All right, so Pharrell Payne, I'd like to see him dominate the paint, okay?
Okay.
In a little while, we'll talk to Luke about some of the key matchups in this and how A&M can win against Alabama. So that's one. The other one was already said was Ohio State. And look, I don't have high hopes for the Texans this playoffs. I don't.
Right.
But I'd like to see them win against the Chargers for a couple reasons. A, I like them. That's my team in the NFL,
team,
right?
I get it.
Secondly, Rex Ryan, who I love. Okay. I love Rex Ryan.
Okay.
But sometimes when you are a commentator, you become a caricature of yourself, right? And I think you're talking about me?
No. Oh. I'm just going,
And he said that this was basically a bye week for the Chargers. I forget the phrase he used. But going on the road against a defense that's really good and a quarterback who did not have as good as the second year as he had as the first year, but was pretty darn good. I think he had 6 interceptions, maybe 7. But I'd like to see Rex eat his words. And I'd like to see the Texans win.
Okay, I'm with you on. If Buddy's your dad, I'm not rooting for you.
I love Buddy Ryan, but that doesn't surprise you, though, right?
Yeah,
he's my kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of forgetting what's the name of this show.
It's
like this 3-hour enterprise.
TexAgs Live.
Yeah, and we're presented by a good guy,
David Gardner.
He's a gym guy, right?
David Gardner's Jewelers.
Yeah, and we're currently in this room that's called
the Rollo Insurance Studio. Speaking of great guys,
another great guy,
Jason,
right?
Yeah,
Jason, the whole crew. All right, and this particular hour, though, we actually have labeled this hour. We've given it a name.
The Go Hour,
presented by
CC Creations.
There you go.
I thought I'd wait just a little bit to make you think he doesn't know.
Yeah, I know you know.
Dramatic pause.
In this particular area where we used to have carpet that's been stolen, this particular area is called. It's
the Cool Zone.
The Holistic Planning.
The Holistic Planning Cool Zone.
Let's point, shall we?
Yeah, I like to do that. I feel like a weatherman, where they can handle your investments. They can help you with that. Oh, your taxes. Tax time's coming up fast.
Yeah.
I'm really dreading it. And estate planning.
Yeah.
But what you're really excited about is those investments. Why?
Because you can invest in pro sports, buy the Dallas Cowboys, and give Mike McCarthy an extension. You can do it.
Oh, if I could, I wouldn't give him an extension. I'd extend my foot into his butt as I kicked him out the door.
Well, there is that. By the way, you can be a part of the conversation this morning. We did talk college football playoffs. We can talk Aggie football. We can talk Aggie basketball, Aggie baseball. You name it. 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms hotline. You can text that number as well. Let's go around the room. We say hi to the people. We go behind the glass. We say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you?
I'm good. Fun fact about James Franklin, by the way. Marcus Freeman, in the past 8 days, has more top 10 wins than James Franklin.
Now that's a stat.
That's crazy. And going back to kind of what y'all were just talking about, or at least the Alabama game, I want to get y'all's thoughts. The stat that jumps out to me, looking at the numbers, is Alabama, at least on paper, out rebounds A&M. So how big of a worry is that to y'all? Do you think it's advantage big time Bama there? What's y'all's take on that?
OB, interestingly, A&M is not a great rebounding
They're
team.
a great offensive rebounding.
Right. And part of that, and Luke can kind of touch on this in a minute, is they want to get back on defense, right? But on offense, that is what their offensive makeup is. Let's get as many opportunities to get the ball in the cup.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be a really interesting part of this game because Alabama's really good on the offensive boards too, not to A&M's degree. A&M's number one in the country. I think Alabama may be like 14th or 15th in offensive rebounding nationally. So that's just going to be, look, in a big game like this, there's a lot of interesting matchups. There's a lot of great elements to it. And that's just going to be one of the more intriguing elements is, who's going to have an advantage on the board. I don't think either way you're going to see a significant difference.
Similar opponents, similar loss. You know who Alabama lost to?
Yeah, Alabama has lost to
Oregon.
Purdue and Oregon, if I'm not mistaken.
A&M lost to Oregon.
A&M lost to Oregon, but beat Purdue.
That did beat Purdue.
But A&M had to rally from 18 to beat Oklahoma. Alabama trounced them.
Destroyed.
Of course, that game was in Tuscaloosa as opposed to Norman. They both beaten Creighton.
Yep.
They actually have a surprisingly high number of common opponents.
Yeah.
And their outcomes have been somewhat similar.
Let's pack Reed, shall we?
I know I'm going to be there.
Well, the gentleman who apparently was labeled as the founder of Pack Reed, his name is Luke Evangelist. He's at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. He fired Callie Gardner. How dare you?
I did. With basketball season happening, I feel like we have to extend the movement to TexAgs Live.
Do you expect for Reed to be packed with students? I know it'll be packed with humans, but students.
Well, it better be. I mean, school starts on Monday, so I feel like this is the time when people are starting to come home if College Station is their home for the semester. So I think it's going to be a great environment. I mean, Texas was electric for a winter break game, so I think this one's going to be even better.
Yeah.
I think they will because they'll follow Luke's lead. Luke has often, maybe his whole college career, he's been leading that charge. He's been a Reed Packer.
I feel like there's a joke in there that you're going to try and hit me with.
No, I'm done.
I think you've been hit with it.
Okay. Thank you, OB. I appreciate that.
You call him a Packer?
I said he's a Reed Packer.
A Reed Packer.
Thank you. Hey, more on the common opponents. They actually have 6, and both teams are 4-2. So if you include the exhibition loss to Houston, they've played 6 common opponents. They also both beat Rutgers, and both have lost to Oregon, both beat Creighton, both beat Oklahoma. So you're right.
So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Look, I just hope it comes down to the way I saw it. What was it, 2 years ago?
Yep.
Anderson Garcia making a big steal late, and A&M was able to close that out. And I think, what was Alabama ranked number 1 then?
They were number 2.
Number 2.
Luke.
What are they now?
Number 5.
Number 5.
You have a list of the last 3 top 5 teams to come to the top 10 teams?
Top 10. So interesting note, this is the first ever home top 10 matchup. That's just because A&M keeps playing top 10 teams while they're not ranked in the top 10. But the 3 last times that a top 10 team came to Reed, they all lost. That's Kentucky last year, Tennessee last year. They were both number 6. And then number 2, Alabama 2 years ago.
We'll talk more hoops with Luke at 8:35. But Luke, what other notes do you have for us? I know women's basketball suffered a bad one.
Yeah, they did. They ended up losing by 41 to South Carolina. But I actually have an interesting note that combines football and basketball. A&M is the only basketball team that's played all 4 of the college football playoff semifinalists in basketball over the last 4 years. Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Notre Dame. They're 5-1 against those teams. Remember, they beat Notre Dame in Maui. They lost to Penn State in the NCAA tournament, then beat Penn State at the ESPN Events Invitational. Then they beat Ohio State twice, and they beat Texas once.
Okay, now, all right, that's interesting. Now, when's the interesting note?
Oh, I got you. A&M women's tennis. Let's discuss this since I know they're the national champions, right?
They pay the
bills around
Mark
here.
Weaver.
They were picked to finish third by the coaches in the SEC, but they're starting the season ranked second. What are your thoughts on that?
I would never underestimate a team led by Mark Weaver.
Yeah, I think a little bit different of a roster, not significantly different.
Yeah, they actually keep like 80% of their production. So,
and Carson Branstein last year came in late to help them. She's no longer at A&M. So
if you look at the roster that played the majority of the season, it's pretty much that. And then they added someone, I believe, from Ole Miss. So all the pieces are there.
I would expect nothing nothing less from the Dreamweaver.
All right, we'll hit a break here. Thank you, Luke. We'll come back to you here in a moment. All right. Let's do that thing where we talk about more than or less than. Yeah. I was wrong yesterday. I don't remember what Callie had for me. Jeremiah loved numbers. I think I took more than, and it was maybe 52.5, and I know he had less than that. So I was off on that one. I believe my numbers for Riley Leonard were more than, and he did go more than. So money is available for David Nuño when you play prizepicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs and get those $50 lineups.
I got a call from my son last night. He won $80.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Playing Prize Picks?
He was betting basketball though, NBA.
Okay.
He's into that.
Well, you can do that. You can do UFC. I know you're a big UFC guy. You can do boxing. You can do lacrosse.
I'm more of a KFC guy.
You are. You're kind of like Colonel Sanders who shaved.
Yeah. I need a white suit.
If Colonel Sanders shaved, would he be you? We should probably. Who could Photoshop that?
How many white suits do you think Colonel Sanders had? More or less than two?
I'm taking more than. I'm taking more than. I think he had 7.
Take the over. All right. Probably one for every day of the week.
PrizePicks.com/TexAgs. Use the code TexAgs. Get $50 once you play in $5 lineups. It's PrizePicks.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
No idea. Pharrell Williams, I thought maybe he was, some wide receiver for somebody. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Pharrell Williams, part of the Neptunes, NERD, famous. He hasn't
Nerds.
aged. Yeah. He hasn't aged in 30 years, looks exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
He's very talented producer, rapper, singer. I think he hosts some show that I would never watch. Like, is he on
I'm
Voice?
just nodding because I don't know, but I assume you do.
Nick probably knows. He watches The Voice, I bet. He's
Oh,
on
yeah,
one of
he
those.
is on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is he The
he
Voice?
definitely was on for a while, but I don't watch The Voice. Don't put that on me, David.
True story. Never watched The Voice on my own. Has it been on in the background as the girls are watching? I walk away quickly? Yes. Never. American Idol. Never put it on.
No.
You
Did
look
you
like
know,
American
David?
Idol.
No, never watched it.
Morgan Wallen came from The Voice.
I do know
You
that,
did
and so did Luke
okay.
Combs.
Really?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Do you want to bet?
I'll fact check.
I'm Mr. Country Music.
I don't believe that, but I'll fact check you.
Okay. Go fact check it. Look at it.
If I was ever going to watch American
No,
Idol.
he did not. He was not discovered on The Voice.
Who was the one that was? There was another guy just like that.
He was rejected from the show
There's
after
two
a few
people from The
round of
Voice that are country
auditions.
star legends.
I don't know. Country's
was not
not
on The
my
Voice?
thing. Country's not my thing. He was rejected from the show after a few rounds of auditions.
So he was on The Voice.
But
That's
he
what I
wasn't
said.
discovered from The Voice. That's what Wikipedia
He was
is telling
on
me.
The Voice. That means he was seen.
He was told by producers that he was, quote, boring and not interesting enough for the show's
But he
ratings.
was on The Voice.
Was he on?
That's
or
like
did he
saying
get
someone worked
cut?
at TexAgs because they got an internship interview.
He was on television. They showed him.
It says he was rejected from the show.
Yeah, because they booed him off stage.
I watched American Idol when Carrie Underwood was on it.
Which one is that one? Is that the one that dated Tony Romo or Tony Romo or Troy Aikman? She dated one of them, right?
No, I don't. She's married to some hockey player, I think. But she's,
Mike Madonna?
No,
Oh.
she's Carrie
This
Underwood.
segment is about being wrong. That's
she's
what it
the-
is.
That's David's one hockey player he knows.
She's
Oh,
extremely.
really? Red Hole?
Okay.
Yarmir Yager?
David.
Yes, sir.
Carrie Underwood's the one that sings the Sunday Night Football song.
Yeah, I know, but she dated some famous.
Oh,
I
so
think,
you do know who
Yeah.
she is. Okay.
Yeah, but I think she dated Tony Romo or something for a little bit, or they no?
No, you're thinking of Jessica Simpson.
Oh, yeah. I was familiar with her work. All right.
Oh, wait, hold on. Yes, Carrie and Tony dated. The two were linked
Really?
in 2007
See,
after
buddy.
one of Tony's Dallas Cowboys teammates introduced the two.
Correct on Luke Combs being a voice guy. Correct on Carrie Underwood. Correct on Mike Madonna. Correct on Brett Hull.
Well, you're welcome
Yarmir
for
Yager.
fact-checking those.
Huh?
You're welcome for fact-checking them.
You're welcome for being the right host. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations, your second best host on TexAgs. All right, so, OB, let's talk a little football for a moment. We did football in the first segment, but let's talk a little Aggie football. So there was a report from Athlon that A&M is in the top 6 teams that have done well in the portal this offseason. And that's cool in January. I like to see that. It really will matter to me more a year from now when we look back, because I think this past year, A&M certainly benefited in a great way from the portal.
Oh, yeah, the portal was good to them last year, without a doubt. And hopefully it will be this year. I think the Aggies appear to have done it excellent at their primary areas of need.
Yeah.
Cornerback and a receiver.
This is what Athlon says. The Aggies met their needs on the offensive side, landing former 5-star prospect Micah Hudson and a pair of productive receivers in Mario Craver and Kevin Concepcion, 124 catches in 2 seasons at NC State. Former Georgia defensive back Julian Humphrey and slot cornerback Jordan Shaw, Washington, are critical pickups to address the secondary that allowed 20 touchdown passes in 24. Restock in the trenches with another priority with Shamar Turner, Nick Gordon, and Shamar Stewart off to the NFL. The pickups of Dayan Hayes, Tyler Onyedem, and TJ Searcy of Florida add much-needed depth and talent up front.
Yeah.
Reading it out loud like that made me feel better.
Yeah, and you know what? They're probably still going to be active in it in post spring and things like that. Yeah, they may continue to add to it. They could find an offensive lineman. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I am. So yesterday in the background, we were kind of talking about our optimism or pessimism entering next year's football season.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a segment earlier in the week, like we're kind of in a wait and see kind of mode. Yeah, I can feel good about it right now, but we'll see, right? Like, I do like what they've done. What I can't address today is the development, right? I believe there will be development. I believe that Marcel Reed will develop into a better passer this offseason. Believing it doesn't mean it happens, and it doesn't mean it won't happen either, right? But that is, I believe the wide receiver room will be more explosive. I think there's enough evidence from the guys that are coming in that there will be a more explosive wide receiver group. Those are beliefs. We got to see it play out because I believed the defensive line last year was going to give us 197 sacks a game. We didn't get that.
The offensive line, the defensive line gave us pretty much what we anticipated
early on, right?
Until November. And then just as their production disappeared, so did A&M's momentum. The defense suddenly was porous.
I believe the run game next year will be better. I don't know, it's hard to be better, but better than it was last year. But my but Le'Veon's coming off an injury. Ruben's coming off an injury. So that's the but. But I still believe it to be true. I've seen enough from Le'Veon Moss to know when healthy, that dude's a man.
Yeah, I would rather discuss your howevers than your but. However,
all right, Stephen
yes, I believe that as of today, I believe that you're going to see a very productive A&M offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are those that question Colin Klein. I'm not ready to.
I'm not there.
Yeah, but I saw enough from Marcel Reed to say, okay, I think this kid has star potential, ability. Le'Veon Moss is already an all-SEC guy, and we saw flashes of what Ruben Owens can be. I guess Amari's still going to be around.
Yeah.
Right? The receiver room's going to be better. I have no doubt in my mind, and I feel like the offensive line.
If they just take a little step up from this year, that's a pretty good offensive line. They may take a huge step up.
My question is, are they going to be good enough to compensate for a defense that may or may not? I mean, it has
secondary
to be
should be better, right?
I would assume the secondary will be improved because of
Chappelle's back.
Chappelle should be back from injury. Will Lee graced us by coming back another year, and then the two guys.
Julian Humphrey started 10 games for Georgia this year.
10 games for Georgia, and the other guy who's
Jordan
Shaw is he started the whole season for Washington. But you got to be better at safety. You have to be better at safety. I thought safety turned out that it was a position that I was very optimistic about, and it turned out to be disappointed. And on top of that, you have got to stop the run. And again, why we see all these changes in the secondary? Somebody tell me. I want to have a reason to believe. Why will Texas A&M be better against the run next season, based on what we have and what we know right now? Please, somebody tell me.
I mean, I can't tell you why. I can hope.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the additions that they brought and how they will fit in with what we do here to stop the run. The linebackers are still, I do think getting healthy at the linebacker will help, but this team had problems all year long stopping the run, from Notre Dame through Texas through USC.
Yep. Yes, they did. I think Auburn ran the ball on pretty well.
Let's hit a break.
South Carolina certainly did. Yes, let's do.
Let's hit a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little basketball. Luke Evangelist fancies him as a hoops guy. So we'll chit-chat with him a little bit about that. Would you?
I need a reason to feel better after I've talked about that defense.
Okay. Would you feel better if you walked shirtless? I'm kidding. If you went to 1775, but you had to go with Luke, would you feel better?
Yeah, in this case, I think the positive way outweighs the negative.
Yeah.
I think that 1775 brisket and the sausage and the pork ribs.
Like
the pork ribs. What do you mean by that, Luke?
What did he say? I didn't hear him.
I said I like the 1775 sausage, and he said something like, "You would? What?"
So
why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I, Luke? It's 1775.
That's great. Yeah, all their food is great.
I've never seen you get this red before.
No, all their food is great. Yep.
Yeah. And then that queso mac and cheese, which is spectacular. There's other things.
If I said to the defensive line, every time you get a sack, you get a free day at 1775. Are we getting sacks?
We might lead the country.
There we go.
At least it was giving motivation.
Thursday through Saturday they're open, which means they're open right now.
Right.
Or not
well,
right now.
But today.
Well, they'll answer the phone right now. So it is open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering at 10 a.m. 8203 Raymond Stotzer Parkway in College Station. 979-492-6241. It is 1775txbbq.com. Everyone, David Nuño here in a moment right now for Snaps Clothing. They are the makers of the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snap shirts. I'm wearing it right now. This is part of their Tailgater collection. It's built for game day. My friend Edgar over there is doing great work. You've got to check out the clothing. It's the Pearl Snaps. It's the cool look. It's kind of hip, but also Western. You'll love it, and they have great stuff there. They'll keep you comfortable as you're repping your Aggie gear, and it's the place to go to get it. Whether you're watching the game from home or tailgating before watching the stands, these shirts have you covered. Head to snapsclothing.com. That is snapsclothing.com to gear up for the season. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin. I'm David. Today is Friday, January the 10th, 2025.
Yeah, Friday.
What'd you do yesterday? Watch football?
Well, last night I did. Yeah. Watch football. Cooked dinner. I actually cooked dinner last night. And
what'd you make?
Football. Spaghetti.
That's your go-to?
No, I mean, I can do other things, but I thought Irma was going to cook. She put out ground beef, like anybody cares. And then she says, "Oh, we got relatives coming in this weekend. Hey, I need to clean. Would you cook? You want to cook or clean?
Right.
Cook."
See, I'd rather clean.
Really?
I find it therapeutic to clean sometimes.
Okay.
Because I like things clean and in order, and I have a lot of kids, so very rarely is my house in order. Yesterday was Isla's birthday. We took her to dinner, had a great time.
That's right.
But before that, you're a good dad. I try to be a good dad. I went to my son's game. They play at Consolidated, A&M Consolidated Soccer. In that weather, stood in there with Annalise for 2 hours with our buddy Philip and Randy in the rain. It was miserable, OB. 34 degrees, 35, whatever it was, raining the entire time.
Did they at least win?
They won 6-0.
Did your boys score?
No, they played defense.
Okay.
No, they played.
But there was 0, so they did their job.
6-0. Yeah, it was a shellacking. Back at it today, but it won't be raining, so it sucks.
Another game tonight.
Yeah, it's a tournament or it's a showcase weekend. Yeah. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke Evangelist. Certainly, Luke. Luke is Luke.
Absolutely. Tell me? What do you want to know about A&M basketball?
Well, I am curious about matchups, Luke, because I know you've been we're going to talk to an insider here in a little bit, but you've been looking at what Alabama does well.
Yep.
There's some similarities in the teams, but one of the things that Bama is known to do is play very high up tempo, which A&M has had success against high up tempo teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of weird. The best teams that A&M has played, like Kentucky and Alabama, the last time they've had these top 10 wins was against offenses that should be good at straining A&M at playing 10 more possessions than a normal team. Alabama actually plays 78.1 possessions per game, which is 4th in the country. And A&M, which is kind of a normal pace team, but they tend to play a little bit slower, plays just about 70. So Alabama is going to get a lot more cracks at it. Their shooting percentages are actually pretty similar to A&M across the board, but their offensive rebounding makes them so dangerous that you're going to have to defend probably double-digit more possessions than you would against, say, in Oklahoma. So A&M's going to have to be on point defensively all night because Alabama's got a lot of guys that can beat you, and they can beat you with size. They play 4 players that are taller than 6'7". A&M's really only got 1. So it's going to be crucial to not foul out for A&M's bigs.
Yeah, I do wonder, Buzz like on defense, right? To go get and to get backs, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if you don't, maybe they always play that no matter what, but I wonder when you play a team that rebounds so well on the offensive end, like Alabama, if you don't say, okay, we're going to have to revise the way our plan.
What do you think?
Oh, I think that A&M's definitely going to have to make some changes, but they can't make too many because A&M's style has gotten them this far, but this is the first opponent they're playing that can actually beat A&M at their own game, extending possessions with offensive rebounding. You mentioned how A&M's not the best defensive rebounding team. They're actually averaging the same number of defensive rebounds as they did last year, 25.4 per game, which is 175th in the country, but they make up for it by being the number 1 offensive rebounding team. So the key matchup for me is A&M's defensive glass against Alabama's offensive glass because A&M has never played a team like this season that's going to offensive rebound as well as Alabama does. So it's how many possessions can A&M steal from Alabama on their own defensive glass. So they're going to need to do something that they typically don't do well, which is protect their own defensive glass.
Is Bama, correct me if I'm wrong, do they struggle from the free throw line?
They shoot 1% worse than A&M, so what would that say about A&M?
We've known A&M has some issues at times.
Yeah, but they're top 10 in the country in free throw attempts, so they get there more than A&M, but they're going to make a similar percentage to A&M.
Wow, we don't hear that often. A team that gets to the line more than A&M.
Yeah, that's their game. It's almost like you're playing an A&M team, but they just have a little bit more size than you, so they're able to
speed?
draw. and speed, and they play faster and they're bigger. And they're
So you're
able to
saying they're
draw.
better in every facet? Is what you're telling us?
No, I think they haven't played a defense like. Actually, I'm not going to say that because they have played Ken Palm top 10 defenses and they put up 85 and 100 points on them in Illinois and Houston. But I think A&M just plays with a certain tenacity, and they have to play A&M on the road, which they haven't had to play a defense like that on the road yet. So I think if you add in a lot of factors and you look at how hard it is to win on the road in the SEC home teams are 135-8 at home. So it's just you're getting Alabama where they're weakest, but you're also playing a team that can beat you at your own game. So it's tough for A&M.
SEC road teams were 3-0 on Wednesday.
On Wednesday they were.
They were.
Yeah.
Are they as resilient as A&M? And like I just don't know how many close games. Like A&M's had they're 5-1 in close games, right?
5-1 in games decided by 5 points or less. And Alabama's blowing teams out. You're absolutely right. And A&M is so old. That's another thing. A&M is top 15 in Division I experience. Alabama has minutes continuity, but they don't have the same experience that A&M does. They've got 4 seniors and their 4 best players essentially, but everyone else is a freshman and sophomore. So you're going to see a lot of younger players playing that haven't necessarily been in a hostile road environment yet. Yeah. I mean, they played at South Carolina, but the South Carolina stands were empty. Reed Arena is going to be packed. So for a lot of them, it's going to be their first time playing in a hostile environment.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to bother Alabama. I think, when you're to that level, you've
good teams are good teams, yeah.
But I think it's going to be a great game. And again, I'm hoping that Wade Taylor is going to be available to play, and that makes it obviously greatly enhances A&M's chances of winning. It's like Luke was telling us, there's a lot of similarities between the teams. Who's going to play their game the best?
Yep. Let's hit a break here. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Bird Dog, they're our partners. They're an Aggie-owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. They've been doing it for about a year and a half now, and they're just fantastic. Jonathan Luss runs the show there. They're an Airbnb for hunters and for hunting. They still do all that, but they want you to know that they make it easy for landowners to get more hunters and make more money on their ranches, and they're going to certainly do that. But it's not just about getting folks on your land. They're helping landowners aggregate those tax benefits. So we know about the ag exemptions on the wildlife, but there's a lot of other opportunities that you may not think about, and they think about it. This is what their business is helping you get money on your land. Some of their clients are making $100 to $500 per acre. They want to optimize and find the best tax benefits for you. They'll be your personal consultant and help maximize the income of your land. The website is birddogit.com. Birddogit.com. Go check it out. Sing it to me,
The late,
Obi.
great Jimmy Buffett.
Buffet.
I probably saw upwards of 10 concerts of Jimmy Buffett.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and on a cold day like this, his music makes you feel a little warmer.
Is he the musician you've probably seen the most?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, without a doubt. I saw Springsteen probably 5 times.
Okay.
One time I had to sell my tickets because Springsteen canceled his concert because the saxophone player, Clarence Clemens, had an eye problem. And when they rescheduled it, I was covering Texas women's basketball. They rescheduled it on the same day that Texas was playing at Texas Tech, which at that time was probably the biggest rivalry,
right.
maybe in women's basketball nationally. So I had to sell my tickets, and the guy that bought my tickets, I've worked with him constantly, was sending me text messages how great the concert was while I'm in Lubbock.
Luke, what's the concert you've gone to the most? Artist.
I'm actually like not a big concert person.
Okay.
I think this rap and like hip hop doesn't sound the same at a concert.
Unless you go see a good rapper.
The only concert I've ever been to actually is J. Cole. And I was just kind of there like with a friend.
Yeah.
I don't really do concerts.
Nick, come on, give us a country guy you've gone to see.
I'm trying to think. I know who it is. I've probably seen Whiskey Myers more than any other group. They're really good live. I've seen Charlie Crockett a lot. He's awesome.
Turnpike? Have you gone
I've seen Turnpike about 3 times. I've seen George Strait once. I didn't get to see him at Kyle Field because that was my wedding day. But hopefully I get to see. Yeah, no. Oh, believe me, we were talking about it once we saw the date. We were like,
saw
dang.
Tom Petty.
Tom Petty,
and that was fun.
Luke,
it smelled really funny there, but it was. Fun.
If you guys were to guess who I've seen the most, who would you guess?
Bad Bunny.
No, I've only seen Bad Bunny once. He's expensive. I don't do expensive.
Kanye West.
I've seen Kanye West 5 times.
Wow.
John Legend 4.
Oh Jesus.
Before we knew about him. Those early days, John Legend. Like Get Lifted, John Legend. You know what I'm talking about, right? Tribe Called Quest.
I just
several
know
times.
Short guy with an ugly wife.
She's right behind you.
I would,
no, you wouldn't.
Oh, there she looks a lot like Wade.
Wait, no, stop.
Hey, what are you saying about Wade Taylor, huh?
That if he was a girl, he probably wouldn't.
We're changing the topic. Obi, thank you.
Yeah.
When we come back on TexAgs Live, John Pugliese going to join us. He actually lives in Los Angeles. I know he was evacuating yesterday, LA, to get to San Diego. He said he could still do the show. We'll catch up on him. Hopefully everything's good with him and his family. We'll talk some Aggie basketball with him. After that, we'll talk to Tony Tsoukalas, who's an Alabama insider. And I believe Billy Liucci for the 10 o'clock hour. It's TexAgs Live. All right, we are back here on TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I know the folks at Brown Broadcasting are working on getting John Pugliese. Do I hear him in the background? Oh, he's with us. We didn't even have to call him. Hey, John, what's up, buddy? How are you? How's the family? Because I know that you guys were having to escape. How are you guys doing?
Side a little bit, but we're doing okay. Thanks for asking.
John, before we move on to basketball, just kind of describe to us, because we see it on social media, but sometimes you just, you don't understand the gravity of what's happening until you hear from somebody that you know. Just kind of explain like what life has been like the last 48, 72 hours as you're driving around town and you can see it from afar as it gets closer.
Yeah, so we live on the coast, so we're in an area that's not super touched by flame, but you've got smoke everywhere. Like I actually, it's not like Bryan College Station hasn't had, and I don't know if it's similar, but when we lived there, power went out when we had a 6-month-old, and we had the snow, and there was no water and all that stuff. So I feel like we've been through something that's pretty has a lot of gravity towards it. I think media sensationalized a little bit. All of LA is not on fire, right? So like all of Los Angeles is not on fire. There are a lot of pockets of it. Tons of people have lost their homes, and it's a lot. We haven't had school for a couple days. Mostly staying indoors because there's a pretty thick cloud of smoke that's kind of just hovering around. And it's pretty wild. It's wild to be a part of, and there's been a lot of support with all the firefighters and firefighters coming in from other states, so that's obviously appreciated. And we're doing what we can. Thankfully, we've got the resources, right? My family's got the resources to be able to get in the car and come down to San Diego to see other family. We brought enough of our things, it's been a lot, and there's a lot of really good people who have lost a lot of stuff.
Talking to John Pugliese here on TexAgs Live. John, just you texted me right after that game. Get me on the show ASAP. What was so impressive? Obviously, it was all impressive coming back from 18 down, but just we're doing it without Wade. Just your takeaways from the game against Oklahoma.
So I tend to stay away from keyboard warriors, right, on Twitter or on the message boards or any of that stuff. I tend to stay away from them. But there's a couple really great Aggies who do a really good job on Twitter that I really enjoy being a part of and having conversation with. And what I said to a couple of them at halftime was, got to get the ball out of Manny's hands, and you have to put the ball in Phelps' hands and let him work. There needs to be more space. You got to push the tempo, and you've got to get him to make plays, because Manny's just not a ball dominant guard. That's not who Manny is. Manny is a grab the ball off the rim, push it out in transition, make a play for himself, get 2 feet in the paint. Manny's not a half court guy. And what OU was doing was they were forcing Manny to walk the ball up. I mean, you watched it the last 5-6 minutes of the first half. It was a standstill of a game. And, exactly what I said we needed to do, they did. You put the ball in Phelps' hands. You let him make plays. You let him go to work. He got his Wade Taylor on very much. This is not a guy who shoots a ton of threes and makes a ton of threes, but put himself in a position to hit what I think he was 6 of 10 from 3 or something like that, including a couple huge ones. What A&M did really well defensively was they confused OU's guards. There was a lot of spots where they got back tipped from behind, which led to a run out. That's what happened with Solo's dunk. They just did a really good job of confusing them in their hybrid, and it put OU in a position where they were never comfortable. And I think that's the key to A&M defensively is there's going to be times when your opponents go on runs. There's going to be times when you're down. But if you can consistently make it uncomfortable for the offense, because you don't really know what they're doing, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of scouts out there, but I'm not sure that any of the scouts do a really great job of explaining A&M's defense. And so if you don't really know what's happening and you're always looking over your shoulder and you're always looking for, hey, what's going to happen here? It gets confusing for the guards and it's hard to deal with. So I think that's what A&M did. I think they wore him down. And then thankfully you had Phelps who, put on an all-time Aggie second half. I mean, that was as impressive of a 20 minutes as I've seen. And quite frankly, it was needed because the first half was that bad.
Talking to John Pugliese. John, tell us, you describe the A&M defense. I know you started talking about how scouts see it one way and they don't know how to verbalize it. How would you kind of verbalize the mental approach and then the application?
So there's a hybrid zone man-to-man element to it, right? So very matchup-like. They're really forcing teams to pass the ball around the perimeter. It almost becomes like a 4-1 defense, meaning four guys like on the perimeter, the wings really high, where you really have to get, and this is, I think, a key for Bama, is you have to get to the baseline. You have to get penetration, and you have to push the ball, get 2 feet in the paint. What A&M's defense doesn't do is when the ball gets beyond the initial defender, they don't do a great job of helping. And that was the difference between where A&M's defense has been and where OU's offense really struggled, was when OU got behind the initial defender who was guarding the ball, A&M had guys there. They really stepped up. And they could do that more when Anderson Garcia and Solo Washington are on the court than when Payne and Coleman are on the court, because they can really switch more. They can do some different things. But it becomes basically a 4-1 with really high wings, with matchup tendencies. And you can do a lot of things against it, but the key is you get your feet in the paint. And if I'm coaching this team, I'm going to get the ball to the wings, and I'm going to drive the ball hard at the teeth of the defense. I think that's going to be a key. Something you're going to see. I think you're going to see Mark Sears. You're going to see Grant Nelson. You're going to see Holloway. Some of these guys who are ball dominant for Bama. I think you're going to see them really punching gaps early in the game. And if you do that, I think you can get to the line against A&M, especially if you get 2 feet in the paint and are going up towards the rim.
John, how long can they withstand not having Wade based on what they've done so far, right, to where they're still in good shape? I mean, hopefully they win all these games, right? That's obviously the goal. But considering what they've done and how hard it's going to be when you take on Bama and Kentucky and all the games after, right? How long can they withstand not having Wade and not really affect their potential trajectory?
Well, I mean, it's not a good time not to have him, right? You have OU, then you have Bama, then you have Kentucky. You get a little bit of a break with LSU, who I don't think is very good, but then you got to play another top 25 team in Ole Miss, right? So this isn't a great time for it. I think you can be okay, and your trajectory in the NCAA tournament, your seeding is not really impacted that much, because I think people will look at the fact that Wade Taylor was out, and so as long as they win games once he comes back, I don't think it's a huge deal. I'm worried about what Phelps had to do in the second half for A&M to win this game against OU. If you don't have another guard who you can rely on to make plays, to run the point, you're putting a whole lot of pressure on Phelps, and a guy who wasn't supposed to be in that position, right? So, I would love for him to do what he did against OU every night, but I think that's going to be a difficult ask for him. And quite frankly, Manny wasn't in a great spot to succeed the other night, and maybe it'll be different. I thought it needed to be a really big game for him, for A&M to win, and thankfully he got some superhero efforts from some other people. But I'm looking at some other guys, like who are the other guys who are going to step up? Hayden Hefner has been in the lineup for a couple games now. In the starting lineup, like what is Hayden Hefner going to give you more? You need more, right? You need more. What could you do with Solo and Garcia and the bigs? They're the front court four. They combined for 27 and 18 against OU in the win. I think, to beat other top 25 teams, they need to go for 25 plus and 20 plus rebounds. Like that's got to happen. So if you can get that, I think you can take a little bit of pressure off of Phelps. But quite frankly, I'm not sure you can play that many games without Wade Taylor and be in a good spot.
Talking to John Pugliese here on TexAgs Live. John, so let's talk Manny for a minute, because what is missing? We saw what he did last year when Boots was a little banged up and he came in and he dominated. We know it's in him. It might happen tomorrow against Alabama. What do you think is not there so far for Manny?
Unfortunately, I feel like Manny is going to be a better pro. And I say this like without the idea that he's an NBA prospect or anything like that. But like, I think his game is more suited for professional basketball than it is for college basketball. Manny needs more space. He needs room to work. Last year, he was able to do that because you had some guys on the court with him at the same time who could make plays like he could. And he wasn't really asked to be the focal point of the offense bringing the ball up the court. When you take a guy like Wade Taylor out of the starting lineup, you take a focus out of the starting lineup for opposing defenses. Manny needs somebody else there, because where Manny's going to get his play his best, get his points, is in the creases where teams have to overhelp. In offensive transition, when he can grab the ball off the rim and he can push the ball. He's not going to get his points in a half-court game that often. And his pull-up game, his three-point shooting hasn't matured enough to the point where he's super confident in it. When I see him catch the ball on the wing, I don't see him look at the rim ready to shoot. I see him put the ball down on the floor trying to make a play. Whereas guys who are confident in their stroke, they see the rim as soon as they catch it. And so I like Manny so much, and I really want him to be able to succeed. But this A&M team this year is not playing as fast as last year's team was playing when he really excelled. I don't have the data, David, so maybe I'm wrong, but from my eye, they pushed the ball much more in transition last year when Manny was really at his best. They got the ball off the rim and they really ran with the ball when Manny was at his best. They created more turnovers, especially in the full court, when Manny was really at his best, and he didn't settle. And he didn't have to bring the ball up that often. And if he did, it was really for Wade to run off a bunch of screens, and he was the second, third option on the perimeter. So, I think they could get back to a little bit of some of that stuff to support him. Tempo is really a big one for him. I think he needs to play in a faster-paced game. And this Bama game is going to be a faster-paced game. It just depends on if he can find his spots the way that I think we've seen before and we know he's capable of.
John, is this team, obviously, they appear to be better than last year's team. Are they better than last year's team?
I think yes, because you have a matured group. This team with Boots Radford for what would have been, his 10th year of college or whatever, this team would have been spectacular. This team needs a couple of those other guys to step up, and I think that's what they're missing. Phelps is really good, and Payne has been really good, and Henry Coleman still gives you the stuff, but they need one more dude, a guy who's just a dude. And that's what I think they're missing a little bit of is they just need to be a really, really high-level top 10 team, which obviously they're already a top 10 team, but to be a really high-level top 10 team, I think they need one more guy to step up and make some plays. I think they have it in their roster. So I would say their roster makeup is better than last year. But we're close, they're close and they can play it. They've done it together better than most, and they've done it together better than I think I would have thought they did early in the season. And that's what excites me is you've seen really good A&M basketball in the second half of the year, the last couple of years. here we saw it, really from the opening jump.
But the addition of Pharrell Payne and the different dynamic that he brings to this team, how crucial is that? Because when he has been big for them, he has been a difference maker.
I think it's really important. I'm really surprised that Henry Coleman's still getting the minutes he is. I mean, I know he only played, 14 or 15 against OU, but Payne is a difference maker. Payne should be playing 25, 27, 28 minutes a game. I still love Solo Washington and Anderson Garcia. I would play them more together if I could, because I don't think you necessarily have to play a big like Payne or Henry Coleman. But Payne has been a difference maker. He's been terrific. He's what Henry Coleman needed to add to this roster because of Henry's kind of ups and downs, depending on who they're playing and the style of play that their opponent plays. Payne can play against anybody, and he's done it in the Big Ten. He understands physicality and just a really great addition to those other three guys. And I think for him, it's, can we see if we can get him some more run, some run that's consistent, that's more 4-minute spurts, where he doesn't get into foul trouble. We have another guy we have a guy who can actually protect the rim, and then who finishes everything around the cup. Payne was as big of a transfer as anybody in the SEC when I look at A&M's roster.
Talking to John Pugliese here on TexAgs Live. John, let's talk about this matchup against Alabama. Earlier, Luke was on the show telling us how they're similar, right? The way they play basketball, great at offensive rebounding. They go to the line a lot. They go more than A&M does. They're just a little bit bigger and faster. How do you caddy this one?
Well, I mean, Bama plays at a quicker pace than A&M does. That's for sure. I mean, Mark Sears would be similar to Wade Taylor in the perspective of really high-level guards who are ball dominant. Grant Nelson is the X factor for Bama. There was a 4 or 5 minute stretch in the first half against OU when Bama absolutely put it on them. And it was 107-79, and it wasn't even that close of a game. Like that 30 points sounds like a lot. That game could have been 50. That's how good Bama was against OU. They just demolished them. But Grant Nelson had like a 4 or 5 minute spurt where, and this is a 6'8", 6'9", long, wing who's really a 4. He hit a trail 3. He was the ball handler in a pick and roll, and he threw a ball with one hand up to the rim for an alley-oop. He had a rip baseline for a 2-handed dunk. He hit another 3, and then he had an and one on a pull-up. Like, he's the X factor because A&M doesn't have anyone like him, so you're going to have to see some really good matchups to try and slow some things down that he does. And he can go in and out of the game, but he looked like a lottery pick. He's not, but he looked like a lottery pick against OU. Mark Sears is the key, very similar to Wade. And then they have guys who just finish around the rim. They have really high-level guard play. Got a great coach. They play with pace. Defensively, they're okay. I think they'd rather outscore you than really lift you up. You'll see some full court stuff, and you'll see some tough man-to-man and some tough stuff in the tough defense in the half court. But they get on the rim. Look at the box score from A&M's game against OU, and you saw 17 offensive rebounds. Look at Bama's box score against OU, and they had 22 offensive rebounds. So, this team's going to go up on the rim. They're a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little bit taller, and they're going to just go after it and get the ball. So, without Wade or without one of these guys or foul trouble, you could see a lot. A&M needs to control pace. They need to control tempo. They need to find their spots. They're going to have to hit shots, right? They can't be 1 of 14 from 3, which we've seen multiple times this year. They've got to find some guys who knock down some shots early. And get to the line, because Bama does love to get to the line. They love to make you hurt in the foul category. And then, just control your own pace, do the things you want to do, and don't turn the ball over. Live ball turnovers will really hurt, right? It's one thing to throw an interception in football, right? Another thing to throw an interception that leads to a pick 6. right? That's the difference. It's one thing to turn the ball over and throw it into the stands. It's another thing to hand it to the opponent and then get a run out for a dunk in transition or lead to a big three. So if I turn the ball over, I'd rather have them punt the ball all the way up to the rafters in Reed Arena. That's going to be an important piece of this game is can we control things, put ourselves in a position to score, finish around the rim, and knock down some shots, which seems obvious, but they really need to knock down some shots in this one.
John, how big is the Reed Arena factor? Just playing at home, playing on the road for Bama. It's been a story all year long for SEC teams being much better at home. I know on, what was it, Tuesday and Wednesday, SEC road teams were 5-0. But that being said, the home factor in this kind of matchup, 2 top 10 teams.
Man, isn't it like the first top 10 matchup ever in Reed Arena? Something like that for men's basketball. Something, yeah, like this is huge. I think having this game at Reed Arena is really big, especially if you're playing without your star. Home court advantage here is probably worth 3 points. That's important. I think that matters. I'm not sure how much a team like Bama, who's been through it, right? They played big games. They've played against other top 10 teams. They've played in the Final Four, right? Like, I'm not sure how much this impacts them, but I do think it impacts anybody, and I think it's really good for this A&M team to have, a game where they're comfortable. They're comfortable in their home environment. They have their home crowd. They don't have to be on the road, right? All those things I think are a really important part. And so, yeah, I think it's important for this game to be arena, especially without your star.
John Pugliese on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Stay safe, my friend. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. John Pugliese there, breaking it all down. All right, we're going to hit a break. When we come back around Aggieland, then we'll talk to Tony Tsoukalas, an insider for Alabama, get his thoughts, and maybe football will come up as well. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you go to caldwellcountrychevrolet.com, just know they're going to have a great selection of vehicles to look at, right? If you're looking for a truck, great place to go. If you're looking for any of the Chevy products, they are fantastic at getting you the right price at the right time, at the right trade-in value. It's just a really good experience when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet when you're looking. And I know that they always have these great truck selections. It's like truck month there all the time, like all 12 months. They have a huge inventory of selection to fit most needs, and they make long-lasting friendships with all their customers to make sure that you know that they will take care of you. It's about a 15-minute drive. The edge of Bryant to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. And we are back on TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is time for Around Aggieland, and that is presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. The website is normandstatebank.com. And with that, we have Kay Naegeli.
I feel like I have to stand here and I can't move because director Nick Savage just yelled
I want
at
you to
me.
move a little bit. I want you like pull a Jim Turner. Just go close.
Yeah, what if I just start going? I'm going to make him have to switch cameras. I'm going to have to make him use all of our weapons back there. How are you, David, this morning?
I'm about to make this awkward.
A bunch of... Oh, look at him. We're going to make this so awkward for Nick. He's scrambling back there.
Yeah, no. Kay.
He's joining me. This is fun.
What do you have in Around Aggieland as I sip my tea?
Let's talk about it. So for the first time in the history of its 27-year history of Reed Arena, the Aggies will host a top 10 battle there. To number 10, Alabama is number 5. They will come to town. That is on Saturday. That should be a pretty heavyweight fight, if you will. Wade Taylor status still TBD. Yep, we'll find that out tonight, I believe. That is at 7 p.m. on ESPN on Saturday. Like I said, should be a good one. Unfortunately, on the same hardwood side, we had women's basketball. They had several lengthy scoring droughts last night against number 2 South Carolina, and they lost a 41-point deficit there. It was 90-59. So hopefully they have OU this weekend. They should hopefully have a response. They will.
What do we know about OU? Are they good in women's basketball?
They're number 10 in the country.
Okay, so they're good, like everybody in the SEC.
Yeah, so there's no rest in the SEC. They're also a very good team, and it should be. This is their women's basketball's 4th straight top 25 opponent.
Okay.
So hopefully they can get out 2-2 out of that stretch. They got one against Ole Miss. Should be interesting. On the baseball front on Thursday, Jace Lavalette was named the perfect game preseason player of the year. I mean, no surprises there. He's had a heck of a career, as well as left-hand pitcher Ryan Prager and Gavin Grahovic. Prager was named to first team, and then Gavin Grahovic was on the 3rd team. And not to get the baseball hype train rolling, but they also sit atop the rankings at number 1 according to Perfect Game. So, I mean,
right now, Perfect Game is perfect.
Perfect Game
right now
has the Aggies at the top. Hopefully, they stay there all year. Want to talk some softball?
I want to hear softball.
This program is so slept on. I'm very passionate about Trisha Ford's program, but Mac Barbara, Emily Kennedy, and Coco Woolley have all been named to the Softball America preseason top 100 player list, with Kennedy getting all SEC first team honors. She's an All-American last year. She's an absolute stud. And for those unfamiliar with Mac Barbara, she's a transfer from San Diego State. She owns a career .368 batting average, including 179 hits, 45 home runs, 31 doubles, and 104 walks. Talk about offensive production. She's going to be a stud for Trisha Ford's softball program, and hopefully they get rolling like right beginning of February. So that is
we got to get her in studio soon.
Right around the corner. No, seriously. Also this weekend, man, we got a lot of sports just ramping up. So once 25 hits, track and field opened its campaign at home. They host the McFerrin 12-degree Invitational. That is at the indoor track and field facility. That will begin today. Pat Henry was on yesterday, encouraged a lot of people to come out to a track meet because he said they're a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are fun.
And then on the women's tennis front, I know Luke alluded to it a little bit yesterday. They are opening their 2025 campaign as well at the Winman Foundation Invitational in Hawaii. And then after day 2, they own a 17-3 record up there, and then including 13-1 singles play, like Luke said. They are projected to finish 3rd in the SEC, which is interesting because they have 5 of 6 starters back. But hey,
and they won a national championship, ladies and gentlemen.
And they won a national championship. But hey, maybe the SEC coaches know something we don't. Georgia, who A&M beat in the national championship, is projected to finish first with Texas at second. So hopefully we'll see how those rankings eventually shake out. And then men's tennis was also projected to finish 6th in the league. They are opening their spring season at the Sun Devil preseason invitational. And last but not least, have some soccer news. Coach G has brought in 7 transfer additions. He is completely adding some new stuff to that program. And then 3 from DFW most recently. Southland Conference goalkeeper Erica Deffring is from Incarnate Word. She is joining the program. All-American Athletic Conference forward Leah Diaz. She is from Tulsa. And then 2-year starting SEC defender Hallie Patterson. She is from Ole Miss. So 7 additions there. Hopefully we see a huge some wins would suck for him next year.
I enjoyed hanging out at the
Yeah, I
Holistic
know.
Planning
This
Cool
is fun.
Zone.
Yeah, we just need to like move around and throw Nick off.
Hi, Nick. How are you doing? Hey, let's talk a little Milliken Reserve. They're a farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done so. It's a beautiful place just to go hang out. If you're into being outdoors like I am, because I'm Mr. Outdoors, along with being Mr. Country Music, that's the place to go. It's a great place to go hiking, biking, canoeing, you name it. They've got it all out there. They have all the native species that you could imagine, preserved woods and ponds and plentiful white-tailed deer, songbirds, rabbits, and turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you come back to that pristine countryside place. You can learn more at millikenreserve.com. That website, again, is millikenreserve.com. And we are back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Trying to get Tony Tsoukalas, the Alabama Insider, on the program. We'll see if he joins here in the next few minutes. Until then, we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Certainly, Luke is Luke. You know where that comes from, right? I've told you before.
No, you've told me before. I just forget things you tell me.
Yeah, I don't know why I like to do it to you. Jim Rome used to do, certainly Duke is Duke, making fun of a coach. But so you're Luke is Luke.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy. Your big smile and your jokes earlier.
Well, because I've got one for you queued up. That pain can be painful. Pain is pain for Alabama. And let me tell you why. In case you haven't been paying attention, Pharrell Payne has been the most efficient player in A&M's offense over the last month. He had 10 points, was perfect against Oklahoma, 3 for 3 from the field, 4 for 4 from the free throw line. And in his last 5 games against power conference opponents, 21 for 22 from the field. And to go along with that, his free throw percentage has been improving. In the first 8 games of the season, he was at his career average 15 for 35, which is about 43%. Since then, his last 7 games, he's 19 for 28, which is 68%, which if you can get him above 60% for a career 45% free throw shooter, you have to be able to be happy with that, especially with the amount of times he's getting fouled and being physical.
Yeah, I just love the added dimension he brings to the team.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need him. Look, if he can score 12, 14 points a game, obviously we're going to take it and run with it. But his presence, I think, changes the way teams will cover Wade and the way they cover Zurich Phelps, because you have to think about him as an offensive presence.
And on the defensive end, you could make the case in his short career, he's already the best rim protector A&M's had in a really long time here. You think back to Julius Marble, what he was able to do on the defensive and offensive end. Payne just adds such a different element in the pick and roll game. Also an alley-oop threat at all times. He can run in transition and lead, not just lead the break, but be a weapon as an early offensive option in A&M's offense. He can post players up. He can play with his back to the basket. And he's just so physical. He fits A&M's identity so well. He was not at all a highly touted player coming out of Minnesota in the transfer portal.
Yep.
Not even a top 100 addition, according to these recruiting websites. But if you really break it down, in a physical league like the Big Ten, averaging 10 points and 6 rebounds on a Minnesota team that was really not worth anything in that league, he has been, in my opinion, one of the best ads and one of the most underrated ads in the transfer portal across the entire SEC.
100%. 100%. Let's go to Zurich for a moment, some numbers with him, because we felt like early on when it took him a little while to get going because he was coming back from injury and, getting basketball reps is different than practice reps, or game reps, I should say. But taking away the amazing performance at Oklahoma, in general, he has been kind of living up to what we expected from him.
Absolutely. You almost wonder what happens against UCF if he is able to play that game. He had been dealing with that hand injury on his shooting hand, and maybe I just haven't been looking close enough, but I don't know if I've seen the tape as prominent as it once was. He used to pretty much have his entire wrist and thumb taped up on his shooting hand, and now I don't think it's bothering him as much. And you can see that as he had 16 points against Purdue, 18 points against Texas, and of course we all remember the 34-point night, one of the best second halves, the best second half statistically in the SEC this year. He has the most points in a single half of any SEC player in all non-conference and conference games. So one of the best performances across the country as well. And I think he's lived up to the hype, but he's added a different element than Boots. He was going to drive with his left hand. He could score a bunch of different levels, but I almost think Zurich is a great complement. You could never totally replace Boots, but I think Zurich is the best you could get out of the transfer portal. It's actually funny. A&M was one of the last 2 teams for Jordan Pope. It was A&M and Texas. Jordan Pope ends up picking Texas. Zurich Phelps a week later commits to A&M. I actually think A&M ended up in a better position not getting the more highly touted player in Pope, but you got someone who was a better fit in Phelps.
100%. Looks like Tony Tsoukalas got stuck in snow. He's going to join us in the next segment. He's going to be parking and getting in. So what we'll do is we'll hit a break here. We may need some more stats, but until then, we'll talk to Tony Tsoukalas on the other side. Right now, let's talk about Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. documentary films. I think it's a great idea. I've been talking about it for 3 years since I've been here at TexAgs, 3.5 years. Bringing a documentary to your family. It could be about anything. It could be about family business, family ranch. It could be about your buddies that get together and do cool events. It could be about many, many things. They are the very best at what they do in telling people stories. And I mean that because I'm a client. I've done it. And we did a Yearflix with Annalise, which is a kind of a 20-minute Q&A fun video, which you can also do. But the Heritage Film is like this 2-hour documentary. It's incredible. And you certainly have got to go check it out. 2-hour documentary about your family, your dad, your uncle, whoever it may be. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. All right, let's talk to an old friend of the program, Tony Tsoukalas, joining us on the Boss Firearms Hotline. You can find his work at TideIllustrated.com, managing editor there at part of the Rivals Network. Tony, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? A rare snow day in Tuscaloosa right now.
How often does it snow there? Like never?
Maybe twice a year, but it's like this is like one of the only times it actually sticks. We might have like an inch. Like I think people are panicking and going out and buying all the bread and milk in all the stores and stuff. But that's the way it goes down here.
Tony, talk to me about this basketball team. Obviously, super good team, a team that, as we've been investigating what they do, we've watched a little bit of them on TV. They're built similar to A&M. They're going to play really good defense. They're going to get after the offensive rebounds. They've got more athletes, I think, a little bit faster. Just talk to me about what you've seen from them this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're a classic Nate Oates team, so they're gonna shoot a lot of threes. But I think the misconception around Alabama is that they live and die by the three. I mean, lately, you saw what they did against Oklahoma. They didn't really have to rely on the three. They got to the paint. They've got some guys that can drive there. They also have way more front court depth than they did before. They got Cliff Amore from Rutgers. He's a guy that's kind of coming into his own now. He had, I guess, what you would call a slow start. He was going up against bigger competition in Alabama's schedule than maybe he's faced with Rutgers. But he's a guy that's, you talk about guys that can snag boards down low. He's one. Obviously, you've got, potential SEC Player of the Year in Mark Sears. He's starting to find his form. You've got a freshman in LeBaron Philon who went from somebody that, maybe, could get drafted after a second year to now someone that's probably going to be a lottery pick. So it's an interesting team. It's a team that, as good as it's been, hasn't played up to its potential yet. So I think maybe you're starting to see that, and maybe we will see that in SEC play. But yeah, it's an interesting team for sure.
Explain that to me. They're number 5 team in the country, haven't played up to their potential. So their potential is being the best team in the country?
I mean, look, they were ranked, they were picked to win the SEC, which, I mean, you saw how great this conference is. And then, they're ranked number 2 at the beginning of the year in the AP. I think when you look at this Alabama team, they haven't, until lately, dominated teams the way that you would have expected them to. They've dealt with some injuries. They didn't have Chris Youngblood. Obviously, they lost Latrell Wrightsell. So it hasn't been as smooth sailing as what 13-2 record suggests. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, you're right. They are the number 5 team in the nation. It's not like, I think I wouldn't even call it panic here in Tuscaloosa, but you look, when your rival is clearing away the best team in college basketball, I think that kind of puts a magnifying glass on all of your flaws. And so maybe the vibe here in Tuscaloosa is, how do you keep up with Auburn, right? So maybe Alabama is being graded a little bit harder because they're being graded against, one of the better college basketball teams we've seen in a while.
What happened in the Oregon game? Because A&M also dropped a game against Oregon, and they seem to be a really good team now. That after all that, I was kind of worried about that loss.
Yeah, first of all, they're not a bad team. When you went into that Players Era festival, Oregon wasn't necessarily one of the names that stood out, but no, they're a good team. And Alabama lost Latrell Wrightsell during that game. So, you lose one of your best players. You have to kind of, compensate on the fly. And it was still a close game. That was a weird one. I think that's really the game that Alabama would like to have back. You just dealt with a little adversity there. If Alabama wins that game, then they have a trophy. I know that's who really cares about, non-conference trophies, but I think you had that, you have more of a positive note, and then their only loss would be on the road against Purdue. And I feel like the vibes would be a lot, higher for Alabama. It's kind of weird. I asked Nate Oates about it last week. When you're talking about who's going to win the SEC, a lot of people have only really mentioned Tennessee and Auburn, even though Alabama started the year, picked to win it. I think if they would have won that Oregon game, you would have had Alabama now in that 1A category with Tennessee and Auburn. And right now they're probably in that 1B category in terms of perception. That being said, if they go on the road and beat a top 10 Texas A&M team, I think all of a sudden, especially with Tennessee's loss, I think you're going to see Alabama jump into that 1A category again. Not that any of this means anything, right? I mean, the perception, we'll find out. This SEC schedule will definitely take care of itself. It's a monster.
Tony, football question for you. I thought A&M and Alabama knocked it out the park a year ago when they hired their coaches, Mike Elko coming in for Jimbo Fisher, and obviously Nick Saban retiring, and Kalen DeBoer. Both kind of struggled down the stretch. So I see things on social media. What's the vibe out there in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's a 9-win season was not what Alabama fans were expecting. Even some of the pessimistic ones, I think, especially when you count the bowl game, I think people thought that Alabama was going to extend that 10-game winning streak, or winning 10 games every year streak. There's a little bit of skepticism. It's kind of like, who do you blame, right? Jalen Milroe was not the right fit at quarterback, and they tried to make it work, and at times it did, but that was kind of a failed project for Alabama. I think that the general thought is, for maybe some of the optimistic fans here, is that maybe just the fits weren't right. And you give Kalen DeBoer his full team, it's going to be able to reach more of his potential. I think maybe he was handicapped or handcuffed rather, by, coming in the way he did and had different promises and different kind of, things to manage behind the scenes to make things work. This is going to be more his team. That being said, I mean, there's no excuse for some of the losses Alabama had. You should never lose to Vanderbilt. I know Vanderbilt is a better team, but they had no business losing that one. And they had no business losing the Oklahoma game. I mean, Oklahoma was not that great of a team this year. So, they really should have won those two games. And honestly, at one point, entering November, the weird part about this is, entering November, we kind of thought Alabama had to have a shot at winning the SEC. I mean, they were rolling. They had just beaten LSU. So it's been such a weird season. It's hard to evaluate it. There is some skepticism, but I think ultimately, at least among the more patient and rational fans, I think there's let's see how this plays out. Of course, there's always the you know how fans work. I mean, the second it doesn't work, there's a few people that are just like, well, fire DeBoer. But you look at it, I mean, really, who else is out there that Alabama could get that has a better resume than that? I think at a certain place, you just gotta be patient a little bit, not too patient, but you got to be patient and kind of see how things work.
What's the quarterback situation there next year?
I think it's going to be Ty Simpson. I think he probably would have had maybe a chance to have more of an opportunity when Milroe struggled, had it not been just the way things kind of played out, where Milroe had such a hold on this team. He's such a popular player. He stuck around. I kind of feel like I don't know if Kalen DeBoer will ever truly admit this, but I kind of feel like Kalen DeBoer felt like he owed it to Jalen Milroe, to stick with him because, he stuck around. And, who knows if Jalen Milroe would have left after Saban left, I think you would have saw a lot more of these players leave. So, it was a good and a bad because I don't think he was the right fit, but I do think that he kept the team around. I think now with a Ty Simpson, it could still be Austin Mack, and they have Keelan Russell, a Texas kid, who's the most talented out of all those three. But between that, I think at least for this year, it'll be Ty Simpson.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, when we come back here on TexAgs Live, I expect to have Billy Liucci on the program. If you want to call the show, you can, 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs Live.
Why'd you stop, Luke?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Why'd you stop?
Stop what?
Dancing.
I wasn't dancing.
Yeah, the people saw. Don't worry.
No, they didn't. We were covered up.
Billy Liucci, by the way, will be joining the show in about 2 minutes. Call it 4 on Zoom, Nick. So, by the way, this is TexAgs Live.
On-air production meeting.
There you go. You like how we did that? Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It is a reminder the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave, serving Aggieland since 1984. They have your favorite pizza. They have your favorite world-famous pepperoni rolls. They have a reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their way. So today on the show, what we've basically discussed, and I'm sure Billy will add some depth to all of it, the CFP game from last night, which I was rooting for Notre Dame. I like both teams, but why is it? Why are you already laughing?
I'm not laughing. I'm excited for what we're about to talk about.
It is not a flex. When I say this is not a flex for the olds. That means I'm not bragging about the fact that A&M lost to Notre Dame, who could win the national championship.
Right.
What I am saying is 2 of the 3 teams left, A&M will play next year, and they may play the national champion. And to me, I understand why OB doesn't like Notre Dame. They're a brand, and a lot of people don't like them. I don't like them I don't dislike them or like them. They're just Notre Dame, right? That's just who they are. And when I look at them, I'm like, Riley Leonard's a likable guy. Marcus Freeman, likable guy. Jeremiah Love seems to be really I don't have a problem with Notre Dame. I hate that A&M lost to them. I think A&M should have beat them. Regardless, they should have beat them in that first game if Connor would have had just a normal game, right? But he wasn't normal this season for A&M, unfortunately, except for the amazing game against Missouri. So I don't dislike Notre Dame. I don't dislike Penn State. I like James Franklin. I've interviewed him before. I think he's a nice guy. I'm kind of with OB on that. The guy, he needs to be better in the top 5 matchups. He's 1-15, I think it's the stat I read earlier. But I do think he's a really good coach that you replicate the success he had at Penn State at A&M. There'd be statues for that guy. And I know people don't want to hear that. We'd be talking about him being amazing, right? Mm-hmm. So, and Penn State hasn't won a national championships in I guess they claimed the 92 one with Kajana Carter and Kerry Collins. I think they claimed it, if I remember correctly. I know it was before your time.
Yeah, that was before. In my day, David, you played to win the national championship. Now, when you were growing up, they voted on it. So
let's go to the Boss Firearms Hotline. We are joined by the executive editor, the co-owner, good friend, and probably very cold friend of ours, Billy Liucci. Billy, good morning, sir.
Good morning, David. What's happening?
Buddy, we're just, I don't know where you want to start. If you want to start with basketball or maybe a little CFP, but I thought we'd kind of catch up and go round robin on a bunch of topics this morning.
Well, let's go round robin. I'll let you pick. You decide, and we'll go. I think basketball probably, to me, gets the lead, considering the show is TexAgs. And even though the Aggies have a couple of connections to this playoff, they're not in it. So that game the other night, I know you guys have talked it into the ground probably the last. I know our boy Evangelist has tweeted it into the ground. Luke, you know how jealous Zane and Bronny probably are with the amount of Luke Evangelist retweets I've been doing?
They can't sleep at night.
That gets to both of them. Like both of you guys absolutely know. And they'll deny it until the cows come home, but everyone up there knows that. Evangelist getting consistently retweeted is driving them nuts. But he's putting out great content.
He is. I actually noticed that Billy was retweeting you. I was like, wow, I don't think Billy's ever retweeted me, but that's because I don't tweet. So,
unless I want to get somebody doing the Firefly kick or whatever that thing was.
That's pretty good.
No, that game the other night, let's talk about it because, golly, I was so fired up. I thought they could potentially win that game without Wade, but I wouldn't say I was optimistic. I thought it was possible. It was like, I'm not going to be shocked, but to be really honest, I wasn't expecting it. Wade is such a big part of what they do, what makes them so hard, and for their offensive struggles at times, or just say, not offensive struggles, just say shooting struggles at times. Wade is, he can do so much, especially against a team, I think, like OU. I thought that was a game he could go in there and he could have been the one scoring 34. Going on the road, OU, I didn't like the fact that they'd gotten blasted by Bama the game before for their first loss. You knew that was going to be a bounce-back, focused team. Their first SEC game at home. You had a top 10 team coming. I mean, it was really set up. That was a tall hurdle for Buzz and that crew to clear. It really was. And then when you combine it with an 18-point second-half deficit, my God. So that was the kind of game, guys, that you look back. And I know what the next few games have coming up, particularly the next two, but that was one of those games where you look back and go, you want to keep a top 3 seed. You want to win an SEC title. I know that sounds crazy when you're looking at what Bama, Florida, Kentucky, and Tennessee are doing. I'm just saying, man, we've seen this before. I mean, we've seen Buzz Williams take an A&M team and go 15-3 in this league with a win over the team they're playing Saturday in Bama when they were ranked number 1. So you want to do these great things. You want to really set yourself up in March, or you want to go and steal that road win that you're going to have to more than once this year to be where you want to be in the final league standings. To go and do it that way, man, I think that was entirely unexpected, and I think that's the kind of win that can really, propel this team in onto a whole nother trajectory. Just to be able to go do that without Wade, have the guys step up the way they did, particularly Phelps shooting the ball, Pharrell Payne the way he played, and just the whole team to just claw their way back and play defense and rebound the way they did down the stretch to come back and win that thing. Golly, that was on a short list, in my opinion, of some of the more impressive wins by Buzz Williams' team in these last 6 years, and there's been some really good ones. So I was really fired up, if you can't tell. But I also thought that Texas A&M is a better basketball team than Oklahoma.
Yep.
I'd watched them some this year. I saw them beat Michigan. I just wasn't buying it. I'm buying that they're going to go to the tournament, and I'm buying that they're a good, Porter Moser. They've come a long way. Porter Mosier. I'm sorry, I shouldn't pronounce the former A&M assistant, Tony Bruni assistant's name wrong. They've come a long way since last season, clearly. But just like Oklahoma and Texas, I mean, you really want to go 3-1 against those 4. And now that you've won the first 2, you want to go 4-0. You want to go do in Austin what you just did in Norman, or you want to get the Longhorns. Maybe you don't beat them by 20, maybe you beat them by 2, whatever. You're a better team right now than those 2. You're getting 4 games against teams that you're a better team than, even though both of those teams may end up being in the tournament. Texas is probably TBD, but you're still like where A&M's at with their experience, with the players they've got, with the veterans. That's an opportunity there, and you're halfway there, and you get one more of those at home. So, but they kind of stole that one. They didn't steal it in terms of they were lucky. They stole it because Oklahoma, and I think a lot of college basketball, if you told them no Wade Taylor, very few would have seen that coming.
Billy Liucci on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Billy, I also think that's a mark of a team that's going to do well in March, the fact that they don't only survive in these razor-thin margins, they thrive in them. That this team seems to be at their best when the games are close.
Oh, no doubt. And, I mean, I think they expect it, right? They don't expect to have happened what did when they played Texas. That's not what they expect. I mean, they expect to have to get down and dirty and get super, super gritty to win the game. And I don't mean that with a D. I mean that with 2 T's. To get really gritty. So don't have Zane zipping by the screen doing the gritty right now. Him and Allie, they like to do that around the office. But gritty, like, get stops in the closing couple minutes of a game to win it. Lock down defense down the stretch. Clutch shots. Getting to the free throw line. Embracing that physicality. And that's what they like to do. So, yeah, they're used to it. And I'll be damned if that's not a real winning formula, in March. And that's what's carried Kelvin Sampson and these – that's the team I can compare them to most is, just the mindset anyway. That's what has carried these Kelvin Sampson teams at Houston, Nuño, I know you follow them closely too, to what they've become. It's just this. They truly, and it's cliche sometimes because everyone wants to do it, but these guys embrace the grind, the offensive rebounding, the taking it to the rack and getting fouled, the close games and being perfectly comfortable in that moment, almost expecting it. So, yeah, I mean, this is how most of them are going to go, right? So you better have a team that's ready for that.
Billy, there's a lot of unseen value on this team. And when I say unseen value, like, we know they're good, but then we don't really recognize it until they make that play. And I'm thinking about guys like Hayden Hefner that, he's sometimes forgotten. And then he has a little stretch where like, oh, this dude really plays smart, good basketball. And sometimes it's an athletic play. Sometimes it's the right tip-in. Sometimes it's the right putback, the three-point shot. He is really a guy that keeps showing up. And you're like, man, I want to see more of Hayden Hefner.
Yeah, I mean, more of Hayden Hefner, more of Henry Coleman. These guys that at one point in their career, I think it would be lying for everyone not to say, yeah, I think we've seen the most of their minutes. It seems like maybe they're getting passed up in a rotation or something. They've struggled at times in their career, but they just put their head down and keep going. And they've also had some really nice moments, especially like Henry. But they just keep getting better, understanding the team, understanding college basketball, understanding the ebbs and flows of a game, and understanding their roles. And here's the thing, their roles can change. They've changed from year to year. They change from game to game, week to week. And guys like that are 1,000% okay with it. And it's a really well-constructed team. Let's just call it what it is. When you have the head coach, who he is, Buzz Williams, and you have the type of kid he wants to recruit, and you say, well, what does he need? If he's not going to go get, and look, I still think Buzz would gladly take a 5-star out of high school. In the days of NIL, that's tough, at a place like this. There are 5-star guys that have the work ethic. They're fewer and farther between. But the way Buzz recruits meshes very well with this is I think the perfect finished product. When you keep guys in your system, you handpick guys from around the country to fill roles and to make your lineup look exactly like you want it to look. You watch them in college basketball. You have college coaches you respect that coach with them and against them that you can really talk to and vet, so you don't have many, if any, misses out of the portal. So yeah, this NIL thing, you go, well, A&M's probably not got and they're doing a much better job. The people running it's been, they've been really committed, and it's been, steps forward throughout from the time this thing started. I think they're in a good place, but it's still not A&M football. It's not Kansas basketball, Kentucky basketball, what Arkansas is doing. Alabama's got a ton of excitement now. But the portal and the NIL portal era, let's just call it the portal era, has been really great for Buzz in a different way than I think it is for a lot of other people, a lot of other programs, in terms of, man, you let a guy like that's that meticulous and understands his style and what he wants to accomplish and how as well and as keenly as Buzz Williams does, and let him go handpick a roster, this is what the product's going to look like. This is what, especially when you've got as many veterans as he does. When you've also, it's the mix of the handpicked guys plus the guys that he's recruited that have come up through his system, like Hefner, like Wade, like Solo, plus the guys that are transfers but have been in your program for so long, like Henry and Andy.
Well, I wanted to go there because we did it for football. We'll do it for basketball. Just Buzz with the portal has hit with guys that fit. Zurich Phelps, Pharrell Payne on this year's team, C.J. Wilcher. Like, he has hit on these guys. He hit in the past, right? Like, the guys that he brings in, Andy, who now feels like he's grew up with A&M, right? And Henry, who grew up with A&M, and Boots, who played elsewhere but is an Aggie, right? Dexter. Like, all these guys, he seems to hit, and they become a fabric, not only on the court, but a part of this, like, kind of A&M community.
Oh, no doubt. And that's just kind of how that's what Buzz preaches in his program. And that's why they are so active in the community. They're so well liked around campus. You know, whether it's campus, whether it's the nightlife, they're just popular dudes on this campus. And it's deserved because of how they act, not because of how they play. That's what's cool about it. I mean, that's what's, you know, Wade Taylor's your superstar player. I mean, I can multiple times seen Wade around town, you know, eating breakfast or somewhere by himself, just sitting in the corner having breakfast. You know, it's just not, they're not like, they don't walk around and think they're superstars, but they're starting to be. And it's a long way to go. You're 2 games into an 18-game conference schedule. We all know that if they could get one of the next 2, it would be an incredible 4-game start. Pretty incredible 4-game start. And if they don't, it's not the end of the world. And guess what? If they do beat Alabama at home and go upset Kentucky, there'll probably be I mean, we might look up in a few games, these guys might be ranked like number 4. At that point, you start jumping them over teams. You know, usually in these rankings, you might jump one team if teams in front of you don't lose. You win those 2 games, they ought to make a giant leap way up there. And you start, I think the whole country would consider them, you might be talking about them as a 1 seed at that point. Probably not, but probably a very high 2. Even if they do that, my point is that also doesn't guarantee anything. There's going to be ebbs and flows in this conference schedule. That's why a game like Wednesday night was so damn significant. Because if there's one that you can get, the ones you have to get are the ones against the clearly inferior teams, obviously. You cannot lose one of those games because it's so hard to get back. But the ones that really feel good and that really make you confident moving forward and give you a lot of hope is when you go get one on the road against a quality team. And that's what A&M did. And when you can do it without your best player and you can do it down 18 in the second half, then you feel even better about it.
Well, Billy, to do what you just talked about, which we are, even with Wade, is going to be difficult, would be difficult, I should say. You may have to do this stretch without your guys. So, but again, there's so much season left, regardless if you win these next 2 or lose these next 2. Like, this might be the hardest stretch of the season until you look at the rest of the schedule and we're like, oh, we still got Tennessee to go, and we got to go to Florida and number 2 Auburn. Like, that's all. Like, there's several of these patches still ahead.
Yeah, no, it's guts, man. That's what's gonna carry them through. Experience and guts. Period. That's it.
All right, let's
hit. They got a lot of both of those, by the way.
They do. And we can keep talking basketball. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Billy Liucci, who's on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Talk some CFP. We'll talk some football. We'll talk some baseball. Right now, Costa Vida, they're open all week, right? That's the place to go to get your fresh Mex on. If you love fresh Mex, which I do, you go to Costa Vida. If you're thinking, well, I am more of a Tex-Mex guy, try the fresh Mex style. That's the way to go. Their quesadillas are phenomenal. Tortilla soup is great. You can pre-order online through the app. They can take care of your catering needs. They have bottled beer, pina colada, sangria, margaritas, you name it. Taco happy hour. They have student discounts. They have all the great things that you want when you're going to an awesome place there. And they're Aggie owned and operated. Holly is there. She dreamed of owning a restaurant in College Station, brought this bad boy, and that's why all the Aggie athletes, they love to eat there. Just an awesome place to go. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. 4501 Mills Park Circle in South College Station is Costa Vida. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Want to read this to Billy Liucci, who's on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Green Bay Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper named the NFC Rookie of the Month. Billy, this guy, just continuing to have a huge season for Green Bay over the last month. 35 tackles, 1 sack, 7.5 tackles for a loss, and 1 interception.
Edgerrin Cooper is how you need to recruit. Nuño. I mean, that is the perfect way to recruit. If you think about it, Edge was out of Louisiana. I think he was committed to Utah. All of a sudden, and Oklahoma get involved. You sign him. That was a Mike Elko eval and signing. You get Edge in there. You let him play early. He flashed it. You go look at anything we or I wrote or said prior to his freshman year as a recruit, during his freshman year. I mean, it was just a steady progression. Had that nice sophomore season, and then just it all came together for him as a junior. By the way, you also kept him because that wasn't easy. LSU did everything they could to get him home back to Louisiana, and he didn't do it. You kept him not only for his, you kept him, and he had that monster breakout junior season, and on to the NFL as a second-round pick? Was he second or third?
Thought he was a third.
I'm sorry, that's asking too much. But
I answered.
It's too fast. I know. I thought you were going to try to get Luke involved, and he's over there probably gazing at his tweets or something.
45th pick overall.
He's over there tweet gazing. But what was he?
Second round, 45th pick overall.
Okay. Yeah, so second round pick. Like I said, then you said third without a fact check. Way to go, Evangelist. I don't know what he's doing right now.
I'm doing research for Richard.
He was doing, Luke, you were doing so well earlier in the hour, and now this. No, I mean, Edge is exactly what you want. Look, you used NIL to keep him. You identified and evaluated him. He developed in your system, and he went on to the NFL, and he's playing really well and representing your program. And I think he's a budding star in the league. We always talk about Mike and Vaughn and Miles, and obviously Mike and Vaughn are like 10 plus years in, right? What is Mike 9 or 10 now? He's 11.
Yeah, 11. He's 2013.
Him and Vaughn are that many years in. Miles is several years in now. I mean, you're starting to use the word Hall of Fame with Miles Garrett. He's played so long. The Aggies need some young star caliber players in this league. And a guy like Donovan Wilson, what he's doing with the Cowboys is really nice. But Edge, I think Edge, if I'm looking in this league, Jake Matthews is long in the tooth now too. He's up there at the same age as like guys like Mike. And if I'm looking for the brightest young star in the NFL right now from Texas A&M, it's probably Edge and A-Chain, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing somebody there? A real somebody, not a forced somebody. I know there are other good Aggie players in the NFL. I mentioned Dono. Obviously, Eric McCoy has done some great things in New Orleans. But I mean, star caliber guys. Who are your guys? And if you're ranking them, it's 1, 2, probably A-Chain, then Edge.
Billy, you mentioned Miles there. When I was talking to John Harris early in the week, I was looking at his numbers. On his career, he's got 102 sacks. Every year of his career, he's had double-digit sacks, except his rookie year. J.J. Watt, who Hall of Famer, will be a first ballot, 114.5 sacks. So Miles might catch him next year. He's just 29 years old right now.
Wow. I mean, 4 more years of prime Miles, 29 to 33. 20, that if he gets 4 more years of this level, Miles, which by the way, look at the dude, not only now, but when he was identified as a recruit early in high school to when he got to A&M to now, he is built to everything about him is not normal athletically. I would imagine his ability to stay in peak form will carry on longer than most athletes as well. So, but even by a normal standard, if he get like 4 more of those type seasons, I mean, imagine 4 more years averaging 10 sacks a year.
I have the numbers
And
right here,
Miles
Billy.
next year, okay, look at the list. Because Miles next year could go out and get 18 sacks. But let's just say give him an average of 11 a year the next 4 years, 44 sacks.
That put him at 146. Okay. If he was at
give him 50 more career sacks.
152 sacks. That would put him number 5 all time.
Behind Reggie White, Bruce Smith,
Kevin Green, Julius Peppers, and he would be ahead of Chris Dolman and Michael Strahan in that situation. Michael Strahan finished with 141. So Strahan, who
incredible,
for this era has been the best at getting the sack leader. He would pass him if he does 10 sacks a year for the next 4 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, yeah, I mean, give him and let's not act like Miles in the next 2 years alone at the rate he's playing. How many did he have this season?
12.
Let's not act like Myles Garrett can't average.
Excuse me, 14. 14. He had 14 this year.
I was about to say that. Let's not act like he can't average 15 a year the next 2 years and be sitting at 30 more 2 years from now.
And by the
132.
By the way,
31 years old.
Von Miller, if you want to know where he is on the list, he is 16th right now, 129 and a half. And
wow.
So he could move into the top 15 not too long.
It's pretty amazing, and A&M is phenomenal that in that short a time, Texas A&M had Myles Garrett and Von Miller come through this place, and Mike Evans.
Yep.
And forget about the fact that Jake Matthews' name is probably going to be in like the Falcons Ring of Honor. Dude has started like all but one game for the last decade for them at tackle. So, but when you're talking about 3 Hall of Fame NFL football players in that short period of time, and then you throw in Johnny Manziel and a Heisman Trophy, you had a Heisman winner and 3 Hall of Famers, all within, Miles got there, I think, the year after Johnny and Mike left, so all within a couple of years span. It's remarkable. It really is pretty incredible what that little time period, what happened. And you wish they could have put it all together like that offense, defense at the same time thing, that had that defense in 2013 or, not lost that Florida game to start 2012. Like there was a real opportunity there to do something pretty special, but they did do something special. They did it as a team, but really in particular individually. That was like we're going to look back on that and be like, wow, all those guys were on campus at pretty much the same time. And I don't want to say it because I know it's a joke, but it's still funny. You also had Kyler Murray on campus at that time as well. So really 2 Heisman winners, unfortunately, and one of them didn't end up doing it at Texas A&M. But there was just a ton of football talent here kind of in that same time period, at least at the very top. At times you look, there clearly wasn't enough depth on defense on some of those teams. But, man, you look back and you go the 2011 and 2012 seasons should have really – they left a lot out there, particularly 2011 with all those close losses with Tannehill and the old linemen and Cyrus Gray and Fuller and those guys. They left a lot out there that season. And then the next season they just missed. Like that, those could have been 2 pretty epic seasons there if you're wanting to beat yourself up today. All right, Billy, we'll set a break. We'll talk about the CFP on the other side. But actually, let me say this. Speaking of what could have been, not A&M in it, but I'm watching Notre Dame last night.
Billy, I'm just going to ask this question. Do you think I mean, this is going to be very difficult, but if Miles averaged 12 sacks per year for the next 5 years, because he's already basically done that, all right? And I know that's a tall task. He would move into third all time. Just leaving that out there.
All right. I could see it because I think there's going to be times where he goes. I think over the next 5 years, like 10 could be a low end, but he could. Myles Garrett's still got like an 18 sack season in him.
Yeah, he does. Rollo Insurance Time. The difference is real. They're an independent insurance company built around educating you on exactly what you're paying for, doing the shopping for you so that you can accomplish all of your insurance goals. They can write any form of insurance to anyone. And they've got 60 awesome offices in the great state of Texas. Their headquarters is on Highway 6, and their priorities matter, as yours do. COD, family, and country, that's what they go by there. It's not what they do. It's the kind of people that are at the Rollo Insurance Group that makes them feel so special. Free yourself from the fatigue of corporate gamesmanship. Restore your confidence in the value of relationship-centered consultation. Go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs and find your own personal agent today. You can call them up at 888-44-ROLLO. All right, we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Roller Insurance Studio. Billy is on the hotline. Billy, you want to start with tonight's game or go look at yesterday's game?
Yesterday.
All right. What? I earlier talked about. I kind of like Notre Dame, even though I'm not a Notre Dame guy. Like I just like Marcus Freeman. I don't. Usually, the teams that A&M loses to, I just want them to just get destroyed. But I haven't felt that way about this Notre Dame team. What did you think about last night's game and the way they came back?
Well, according to most people, Aggies want, to be able to claim some sort of moral victory or paper championship by proxy when they play and lose to teams. So to those, the dream matchup would be Texas and Notre Dame, so you could hang a loss to both these teams at home trophy. But as we know, that's not how we operate. I do think, I'll tell you this, watching both the teams play in that first game, I did not think there was any world where Notre Dame would be playing for a national title. I did think they'd reach the playoffs based on their schedule. Kind of changed my tune a week later when they lost to Northern Illinois, but still actually thought they'd make the playoffs once you started to really break down that schedule and see what some of those teams they were playing really were. But they've gotten so much better throughout the year. Offensively, they went through a stretch where they were scoring a lot of points against, not good teams, but I wasn't sure they could even do that. They're doing enough offensively. I mean, they scored 27 last night, and that was with, Leonard being out for a little bit and them having to go to backup quarterback. And that's a tough Penn State defense. I actually thought I would have picked Penn State had you asked to win that game. Kind of similarly, just a very close Penn State win. But for Notre Dame to win that one, and, I know Georgia, that situation at quarterback, I'm not sure how much better they were with Carson Beck, though. But Notre Dame's winning with defense. They're winning with timely offense and just willpower, man. That whole team has a lot of willpower, and they're impressive. The job Marcus Freeman has done with that football team, and then also the, you look at Riley Leonard. It ain't pretty, and it damn sure ain't pretty when he's throwing the ball, but he gets it done, and there's something to be said for that. And in college football this year, where we went through the SEC last night, and we're like, who the heck is a really good quarterback in that conference in 2020? I mean, 2020, my God, 2024. Who is a outstanding quarterback? And I mean, who scared you throwing the football is what I mean when I say that. Because a lot of guys can run. But who in that league scared you throwing the football? It's Jackson Dart and it's Quinn Ewers when he's on. And when you try to play man-to-man and go zero blitz on him. But it almost ends there. And I understand. Don't tell me that Brady Cook is a good passer. Don't tell me Lagway's going to be great. Hell, the real answer might be that Graham Mertz, before he got hurt, might have been the third one in terms of just like, I'm worried about my secondary against this guy. I'm worried about how we match up. He will get them in the right plays and make the right throw. Like there's a dearth of great quarterbacks this year. I mean, you can tell me that Ewers and Will Howard, that either one of them can't go out and have a stinker tonight. Drew Aller is not good. Riley Leonard is not a good passer. He's adequate. There's a lot of adequate. So in a year when that's the case, a team like Notre Dame could actually win it. I mean, you put this Notre Dame team against one of these Bama teams or Georgia from a couple of years ago or 2019 LSU, they are getting run out of the building because it's Joe Burrow, it's Tua, it's even Mac Jones, but more importantly, it's those Bama receivers. It's the Georgia Brock Bowers and McConkey and those guys, and they're running it like it does. They don't compare, but guess what? That team's not out there this year. I know Ohio State's looked like it for 2 games, but 3 games ago they're getting beat by Michigan and not moving the ball at all. So it's just not out there this year. So a team that plays great defense and a team whose
really rallies around and believes in their coach and has a veteran quarterback that when he needs 4 yards, he'll get you 5. When he needs 1, he'll get you 2. That's a tough out. I know everybody thinks that whoever they play is going to blow them out in the final. I think at some point you have to acknowledge Notre Dame's going to be a really tough out. And the fact that that game is 13-13 with about 2 or 3 minutes left at Kyle Field, and I'm sitting there with a big Notre Dame fan, and we're both like, man, neither of these teams look that good. And they beat us, and he was like, we suck. Like it. And then the next week they lost to NIU, and we were texting about it. He was like, we suck. And we were texting last night, and it's like, we're playing for the national title. It's not about A&M and saying that they were close to being that good. It's about the course of a season with this new 12-team playoff. You can survive a loss to NIU. Now, granted, usually when you lose to NIU, that's an indicator that you're going to lose several other games. But point being, you can lose an early game. You can lose 2 games. There's going to be a point in time where you can lose 3 games, and you can make your way through this playoff. Because I just think right now with parity, with the portal and with NIL, I think there's going to be a stretch where there aren't these great unbeatable teams like we've seen for the last 15, 17 years or so coming out of the SEC, with an occasional Ohio State mixed in.
Billy, who's the quarterback at Notre Dame next year?
I don't know. I mean, are you buying into this Quinn Ewers thing?
No, I read an article. The reason I asked you, I read an article that said that it could be Riley Leonard, who's out of eligibility, but that the NCAA is considering 5 years of eligibility. And in a scenario, I'm reading it right here, that you could see Riley Leonard and the rest of those guys come back next year, and Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and that offensive line.
That'd be tough on A&M. Yep. You really love to go up there and get the national finalists or the defending national champs in a month of turnover. More like what Michigan looked like this year. It won't be the same because Jim Harbaugh left, and that's the biggest difference. Like that would be like if Marcus Freeman left, and he ain't going anywhere. So, but yeah, you don't, if you're A&M, and look, you don't want all those guys coming back because some ridiculous NCAA rule was implemented. So we'll see. But I mean, you hear the Ewers smoke, and I don't think Notre Dame will pay that much. Somebody could. It wouldn't shock me. I saw a bunch of Longhorns piling on Browninger recently because they're so stupid in some instances, and not most of them, but the ones that say this are. They're like, this is what these people pay for. No, you dumbasses. They pay for a lot of other stuff. Bronny was just simply making a comment based on some rumblings down there in San Antonio. And I don't mean the typical Browninger rumblings that we're familiar with at TexAgs. I mean the rumblings he was hearing in San Antonio, which were, the Ewers related, that he might be playing somewhere else in terms of college next season. You got a little cute with the trying to play both sides, NFL or college, but not at Texas. Look, I fully expect that guy to go to the NFL, but would I be shocked if someone ponied up a massive NIL bid to keep him in college for 1 year and pay him a bunch of money and watch him help his draft stock? Absolutely. I could see it. I'm not. Ask me what I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to go in the draft. But if the perfect situation fits in terms of offense, opening, high-profile program, a lot of money, I think it's certainly in play.
Billy, we'll have about 2 minutes on the other side, so I guess we'll just drop it here. Thank you, sir.
Tonight's prediction?
Yeah, I want it.
I think Ohio State, in a very close game, 30-27 type of game. I don't think they come out and do what a lot of people think they're going to do and take Texas apart. I think Texas has just been hanging around. There's a lot of firepower. They're playing in their home state. it's the worst time for people to start underestimating Texas and all that talent. And I think Ohio State, to play at the level they've played 2 games in a row, I don't think they can quite do that a third game, because I think Texas wins the line of scrimmage when Ohio State has the ball, and that's going to make things tougher on Will Howard. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Buckeyes make a big play late and seal it.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate you, sir.
All right.
See you. Have a great weekend. Billy Liucci on the hotline. We'll come back with maybe 2-3 words and a advertisement. How about that? That and more. TexAgs. So if they pass that rule, Luke, which John Rothstein is the one who had the report that the NCAA is considering adding a 5th year of eligibility. If they pass that rule, we're not talking about Riley Leonard coming back. We're talking about this A&M basketball team. Like you could be like, Wade, Zurich,
Can you imagine if they took like already one of the oldest teams in the country and just made them a year older? That would be ridiculous.
That would be fun. And A&M would be the kind of team that could bring those guys back. Right now, though, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If you're looking for a reason to come back to Aggieland or already in Aggieland, you need to reach out to the Association of Former Students because they're looking to hire professionals in many different departments. They usually have openings in marketing, fundraising, sales, student programs, and more. They're the nation's premier alumni association and the oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss out opportunities to help out with Howdy socials, Aggie Reading Day, class reunions, Aggie muster, you name it. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, selfless service, and of course, respect, all in support of that worldwide network. If you're interested in joining a team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/association jobs and apply and get more information on each position. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Live on a Friday. On Monday, Billy. Who else do we have? I think we got a Kentucky insider. We've got Buzz Williams and maybe Pablo Escobar. See you then.